watching Canadian Muslim news on Muslim Network TV from Toronto, Ontario. Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace. I'm Catherine Bullock. The Honourable Samir Zuberi has put forth a Parliamentary Motion 62 to bring Uighur refugees to Canada. Later on in the show, we will talk to Saleha Faruque, Government Relations Manager at Justice for All Canada, about the motion. But first, some news headlines. Bill 21 hearings wrap up in Quebec Court of Appeal. Local hockey program for Vaughan's Muslim community. Jailed Indigenous woman renews hunger strike. Dozens killed yesterday in ongoing Iran riots. Now the details. Advocates have wrapped up their arguments at the Quebec Court of Appeal Wednesday against the province's secularism law known as Bill 21. As they await the verdict, the panel of judges have questioned the lawyers if their case is that the bill disproportionately discriminates against Muslim women who wear the hijab. The lawyer opposing the bill says the law discriminates on the basis of gender by disproportionately targeting Muslim women. The lawyer defending the bill says it does not. Although Bill 21 is protected by the notwithstanding clause, the clause will not apply if the law is proven discriminatory on the basis of gender. The Greater Toronto Hockey League is spearheading an outreach program in Vaughan's Muslim community. Barry Hart, president of the City of Vaughan Hockey Association, started a small program in 2011 to make the game more inclusive to immigrant communities. 11 years later, Vaughan Sports Village organises 2 one-hour sessions for Muslim kids to take part in the Vaughan Muslim Hockey Program. 60 kids can register for the program, which is run for 20 weeks. The kids learn how to skate, handle a hockey stick, and play scrimmage games. Hart says to local media it has been rewarding to watch the program grow. Faith Eagle, an Indigenous woman locked in Pine Grove Jail in Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, was taken to the hospital Monday after reaching the 9th week of her hunger strike. Sherry Mayer, a prison advocate, says that Eagle told her she was given an IV to rehydrate and brought back to jail. She ate some fruit. According to Mayer, Eagle has been locked up in a medical cell with 24/7 surveillance. Following the end of her 9-week strike, Eagle has started again from day one. So far, her demands have not been met. At least 15 people in Iran have been killed yesterday in separate incidents. 2 people were shot dead in Isfahan city, hours after 5 people were killed in an armed attack in the country's southwest. The 2 slain men were both paramilitary voluntary personnel. Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi extended condolences to the families of the victims. According to Iran's state broadcaster, at least 3 people were also killed in Semirom in Isfahan province. In another incident, at least 5 people were killed and 15 others injured in Khuzestan. The death of 22-year-old Iranian woman Mahsa Amini in the custody of Iran's morality police have triggered protests in Iran. And that's it for the news. Member of Parliament, the Honourable Samir Zuberi, has introduced Motion 62. It calls on the Canadian government to expedite a refugee stream for Uyghurs to Canada. To talk to us today about the motion and other issues, we are joined by Saleha Faruque, who is the Government Relations Manager for Justice for All Canada. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Wa alaikum salam, Dr. Kathy. Always good to be with you.
Always good to have you with us. A regular guest. Justice for All Canada is a sister organisation of us, and we're spotlighting every month the work that you're doing. Today, we're going to highlight this motion from the Honourable Samir Zuberi, Motion 62. Please tell us about the motion.
Of course. Well, like a lot of global refugee experiences out there, specifically Uighur Muslims or Uyghur refugees face unprecedented transnational repression by China's communist government. Tens of thousands of Uyghurs or Uyghurs live around the world, especially after they flee various crimes against humanity in East Turkestan, or as a lot of people know, in Northwest Xinjiang region in China. So MP Samir Zuberi has tabled a motion called Motion 62 or M62 that levels a few demands to the Canadian government in regards to developing a refugee stream for 10,000 refugees starting in 2024. So, but specifically focusing on the Uyghurs.
You're saying Uyghur or Uyghur. Maybe you should explain why you're doing that.
Of course. Well, Dr. Kathy, I'm always conscious of diverse audiences that might be joining your show. So I believe the mainstream pronunciation, so for example, in a news program like this or any mainstream news program would be Uyghur or Uyghur Muslims, but the correct pronunciation in their language is Uyghur. So it's, in other words, here at Justice for All Canada, we actually say Uyghurs or Uyghur Muslim.
Well, I'll try, but I'm not sure. That sounds a little bit difficult to pronounce. So I hope people listening will forgive me if I muck that up. You spoke about the motion then and the call for 10,000 refugees. Is this a call that's going to land on receptive ears?
Well, we certainly hope so, and that is the main objective of our action alert, which you can find on our website. That's justiceforallcanada.org. So this certain action alert, we're helping connect regular Canadians with their local member of parliament to, first of all, make them aware of this issue of the various transnational repression and the global surveillance that Chinese authorities implement on Uyghurs, specifically who flee persecution. And we're also, that's one part of the awareness. The other part of the awareness is also letting them know that around December, they will be faced with a house-wide vote. And it's up to them. The decision rests in their hands whether or not the refugee stream will be implemented. What makes our motion, what makes our action alert, a little bit more unique is that we're asking for the number of refugees to be increased. So we don't think that 10,000 is really enough, or that it covers the humanitarian crisis. We're asking for at least 30,000 refugees to be accepted into Canada. And we're also asking not to wait until 2024 to begin to implement this refugee stream. We're also asking for it to be implemented at least a year earlier. We also hope that this refugee motion will help also bring awareness to the illegal and unlawful deportations and extraditions that go on globally, which is a huge violation of various aspects of international law when it comes to refugee law as well.
When I hear you talking about the numbers and the dates and things, it reminds me of the promise that the Canadian government made to bring in 40,000 Afghan refugees, and the commitment hasn't been followed through with actual numbers. And then the advocates who are worried about the fact that 10 times, or I think it's double the number of Ukrainian refugees have come in than the promised number of Afghan refugees, and now you're trying to advocate for a third stream. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to put anything on a hierarchy. Every human life is sacred and important, and we should try to help everyone as we can. But are you able to sort of talk about now throwing another ethnic group into the mix of what's already perhaps a problematic policy in action?
That is correct. And I think that in a lot of our communications with lawmakers and Canadian government, we do bring to their attention that these specific minorities that you mentioned, as important as it is, they've received special immigration measures based on those circumstances. And we're asking for Uyghurs to be looked at with the same humanitarian lens, especially because, as we know, Uyghur Muslims face the threat of arbitrary detention as well as forced labor, various gender-based violences facing the population in East Turkestan. And of course, they are very often forcefully deported under Chinese state pressure on their respective host countries. So it does begin with that first step of acknowledging the issue and designating them as deserving of special immigration measures. And that's what we're hoping that we'll be able to achieve for Uyghur refugees and asylum seekers as well.
I mean, Uyghur face what some are calling genocide and crimes against humanity. And with COVID, there's been an increase in starvation, apparently. Maybe you can just very briefly tell us about the situation for them.
Of course, well, Canada has really been one of those first democratic nations to come out and designate the issue as a full-fledged genocide. And Uyghur Muslims, unfortunately, they've been a victim of a recent zero COVID policy implemented by the Chinese government, really across the country, but it's disproportionately impacted Uyghur groups from our observations. So the lockdown in certain East Turkestan cities have instigated police brutality, as well as what we like to call draconian COVID policy measures against those respective Uyghur communities in those regions. And even the World Health Organization, or the WHO, has come out and they've called these COVID policies abusive and unsustainable. Because of the zero COVID policy and the inability to get kind of resources and basic necessities in and out of the region, a few communities have been experiencing a hunger crisis. A lot of them are not able to have increased access to medical supplies or food. And there have been, unfortunately, cases of deaths and severe illnesses of children in the area.
Earlier in the show, you talked about the action alert that your organization is putting out, and you have a double aim that educate the people to lobby their MP and educate the MP so that they vote in favor of the motion. Recently, we saw that many Muslim majority countries, member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, voted against or abstained from a UN proposal about dealing with the genocide against Uyghur. But then, is it hard in Canada to mobilize Muslim voters to lobby their MP? Are they siding with maybe their ethnic heritage countries?
I think specifically with the Uyghur crisis, we do see quite a plethora of Canadian activists really lobbying the Canadian government to take action against the current situation. So with regards to what you had just mentioned, there was quite a groundbreaking opportunity in the United Nations recently to be able to discuss a brand new report that was authored by the UN. And the report basically, it was an independent investigation of the human rights crisis in the region, and the report concluded in so many words that there are crimes against humanity occurring against Uyghur communities, women and children and men. So there was an opportunity at the UN to just simply debate the report, to discuss various aspects of it, but it all came down to a vote. And unfortunately, and it pains us to say this, that it was mostly Muslim majority countries that voted against simply just the opportunity to debate the report. So right now we're mobilizing all kinds of humanitarian and human rights organizations, NGOs, civil society organizations, community service organizations in Canada and around the world to join a joint effort, collective joint letter rather, that we're all going to sign together and send to the member states of the OIC as well as the leadership.
So I think it'll be a shameful politician who votes against this motion. But thank you very much for joining us on the show and explaining it. And everyone can look out to your website for the action alert. We'll see you again soon, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, Salam. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you for watching. If you like what we do, please share, like, and subscribe. Stay safe and God bless.